On today's show, we're exposing a love affair. Yes, the love Minnesotans have for walleyes. How did it happen?
Yeah. Oh, that's a pig.
We are the state of fishing. Let's go walleyes.
Minnesota Bound. Brought to you by Minnesota's select GMC dealers.
Hi everybody, Ron Scherer here with Raven. We have a very special edition of Minnesota Bound. So special we have a name. Minnesotans and Walleyes, a love story. Oh my, how we love them. We love to seek them, catch them, and we love to eat them. You know, as I once wrote, Minnesota has 3 major holidays: Christmas, New Year's, and Opening Day. Yes, Opening Day is the largest sporting event of the year in Minnesota. Even our governors, past and present, participate.
It's our beloved fish.
Got him.
And it's what everyone out there wants to catch. Why they come to Minnesota to fish and why Minnesotans stay in Minnesota to fish.
Now the question remains, why Minnesota? No other state worships walleyes like we do. So how did this love story begin?
We can credit the last ice age for Minnesota's abundance of walleye gold. As the last glacier receded across Minnesota 10,000 years ago, the melting ice resulted in some 3 million acres of lakes and rivers, an area almost twice the size of Rhode Island and Delaware combined.
When the glaciers pushed through, they pushed along all the gravel and rock of different sizes. And when these lakes then filled up with water, that became ideal walleye spawning habitat.
If I was going to design a walleye lake, it would look just like Upper Red. Moderate fertility, large windswept shorelines, because their spawning requirements are very precise.
Today, walleye swim in more than 1,300 lakes and 3,000 miles of rivers.
Yeah. Oh, that's a pig.
A walleye playing field unmatched anywhere outside of the Canadian Shield Lakes.
Nice fish.
DNR Fisheries Chief Don Pereira explains.
I like to joke with my friends to the east. If we didn't have our 10 large lakes, we would just be Wisconsin. Almost like 45% of our prime walleye water is in those 10 large lakes. And they are truly a gift to this state.
The fish we love is the largest member of the perch family of fishes. Close relatives include the sauger and a European look-alike known as zander. A walleye's distinguishing mark is a white lower tip of the tail. As its name implies, the walleye is most famous for its opaque or reflective eyes.
If you look at their eyes, there's sort of a blank look to it.
The walleye's name is derived from an Icelandic word for wall, meaning film over eye. The eyes of a house cat are similar, giving both predators, walleyes and cats, the ability to see extremely well under dark or nocturnal conditions. Under those conditions, a walleye can easily see its favorite meal, such as a bite-sized perch. Advantage walleye. A perch has poor vision in low light, meaning it can be slow in spotting the oncoming mouth of a walleye. Come springtime, Minnesota's walleye world begins a renewal as old as nature itself. It's time to spawn. As the ice melts and the daylight hours of April slowly warm Minnesota's walleye waters to 40 degrees or more, an adult female is ready to mate. Her belly is plump. As many as 500,000 eggs may have been developing inside her now for months. Adult male walleyes, typically smaller in size, have the same urges and begin to seek her presence in traditional spawning sites. Yes, those same shallow gravel bars the glacier left behind 10,000 years ago. Under the cover of night, the courtship begins, a ritual rarely seen. Males bump her sides, urging her to drop her eggs. There is no nest, no nursery. When the female spews out her eggs in a cloud, the male immediately releases its milt or sperm. Fertilization is by chance, as egg and sperm must connect within 2 minutes. Her fertilized eggs have a sticky coating and quickly sink and cling to the bottom. Those eggs landing in good spots, such as gravel, will likely hatch in 2 weeks. Most of the eggs, 95 to 98% of them, will never become catchable walleyes. This is nature's grand plan. Lay lots of eggs because only a few survive.
Well, one thing interesting about walleyes is that they do spawn in rivers, streams, little creeks, and they also have lake spawning. And maybe it's one of the reasons that walleyes are able to do so well.
Minnesota's walleye reputation depends on it. Coming up, our torrid walleye love affair begins and a century later shows no signs of cooling off.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Minnesota Select GMC Dealers, by the Yard maintenance-free outdoor furniture, Running Aces Casino, Hotel and Racetrack, and by Aluma Craft Boats.
History has long forgotten who had the first crush on walleyes. We do know that Native Americans, whenever possible, would trap or spear walleyes for food. In the mid-1800s, when settlers arrived, they too quickly grew fond of the fish. By 1880, the first walleyes were stocked in more lakes. And by 1883, Minnesotans were collecting and hatching walleye eggs. By 1915, an estimated 200 million walleye fry had been carried to other lakes in milk cans. So coveted was the walleye that conservation was an idea that took hold as early as 1893. The state's first fish limits were set that year. The limit, 50 fish a day. By the mid-1900s, Minnesota walleye fishing was every angler's dream. Generous limits and full stringers. The fishing gear of those early days was crude by today's standards. No matter, Minnesota's walleye bounty seemed endless.
This is a walleye, this is a big one.
What's it worth to go walleye fishing? Priceless.
Oh, there's a dandy. Oof.
After all, it is Minnesota's state fish, the official state fish. In 1965, a bill, House File 2044, to make the walleye the official state fish in Minnesota, came up for a vote in the legislature. A similar proposal failed back in 1953, but not this time. The Senate passed the measure 52-3. On April 26, 1965, the House of Representatives also voted. Final tally? Yes votes, 128. No votes, 1. Who could do such a thing? The lone dissenting vote was cast by Robert G. Renner Sr., a Republican representing, of all places, Cass and Itasca counties, each with lakes brimming with walleyes. Why Representative Renner voted no remains unknown. Renner died in 2005. On May 21, 1965, Governor Karl Rolvag signed the measure into law.
Look at that!
By then, Minnesota's obsession with walleyes had become a statewide event. Opening Day. The state's first fishing season was set in 1897, when Lakes Calhoun and Harriet were closed to angling from February 15th to May 15th. Those dates sound familiar? More than a century later, Minnesota's walleye season on inland waters still ends in February and reopens on the second Saturday in May. Today, an estimated 500,000 anglers show up for opening weekend, making it arguably the largest outdoor event of the year directly involving residents. Does that mean everybody catches walleyes?
It's in the walleye family, right?
Well, no. And it doesn't matter. On opening weekend, all Minnesotans are in the same boat. As I once wrote, those folks in Minnesota who don't go fishing dig worms for those that do. And look who joins us for the big walleye day.
Best of luck tonight. You too.
Since 1951, Minnesota's governors have joined the opening day hoopla, starting with Governor Luther Youngdahl. Governor Karl Rolvog was the most avid fisherman to hold office, and his attendance was never in doubt. The tradition has never waned, although the walleye luck with Governor's Pass has ranged from skunk to...
Well, I went to stratospheric last year. I caught 9 walleye on Lake Vermilion. They were, fairly medium-sized, but at least I caught fish. It's more than I've caught in the other openers combined.
Do we love walleyes too much? What a silly question. How Minnesota keeps the walleye factory running. That's next.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Maple Grove Lock and Safe, your premier Liberty safe dealer.
In truth, Minnesota can't afford to run out of walleyes to catch.
There's one fish on there.
Sport fishing is roughly a $2.4 billion business, of which nearly half is spent in pursuit of walleyes, according to DNR estimates.
Stay hooked up.
Nice.
When we look at our state angler surveys, about 40% of our anglers actively pursue walleye as one of the species they fish for.
Big wally?
Big walleye, yeah.
Attaboy. Oh, he's a nice one. Attaboy.
Yeah.
Good job.
Walleyes have launched many Minnesota businesses, from bait shops to tackle makers. Just ask John Peterson, founder of Northland Tackle in Bemidji.
But when you're in the fishing business, there's no bad days at work. It's pretty easy to get up in the morning and go to work because it's all fun and enjoyable, and especially if you have a passion for what you do.
Walleyes have even made some Minnesota anglers famous, like Gary Roach, who claims the name of Mr. Walleye.
I got mine up close here. Ooh, good one. Doubles, man. Woo. Look at that, Gary. 20 twins, buddy. How about that, huh? To me, it's looking to find them. And once I find them on that point over there, and I catch a few, and I said, I got to go to another point, or I got to go to something else and see if I can keep finding them.
Minnesota and its walleyes also helped launch an amazing fishing career for Brainerd's Al Lindner and his brother Ron.
The walleye has paid the bills for me. It's simple. Minnesota overall has the best walleye fishing of any of the states, period, for quantity and quality. It's really that simple.
In many ways, fishing for walleye tends to be contagious.
Beauty.
Relax Walleye Guide, Tony Roach.
There he is. It just never gets old, Ron.
No, I know.
Expert anglers say walleye fishing is often more hunting than catching.
The thing about walleyes is that they can be extremely elusive.
When it comes to maintaining our walleye reputation, Minnesota takes no chances. No other state matches Minnesota's walleye factory. We spend roughly $3.6 million a year on raising and stocking walleyes. Every April, DNR fishery crews intercept spawning walleyes in 8 waterways around the state to strip eggs from ripe females and milt from males. The fertilized eggs, roughly 580 million annually, are hauled to egg incubators in DNR fish hatcheries.
Our little joke is that we spill more eggs in Minnesota than most states even hatch. So yeah, we have a very extensive program because we have an amazing walleye resource around the state.
Most of the hatchery-produced walleyes are stocked to augment walleye numbers in lakes with little or no natural reproduction. Walleye stocking is important, but not a cure-all, DNR warns. In recent years, intensive walleye stocking was used to restore depleted walleye populations in Upper and Lower Red Lake, as well as Leech Lake. This spring, DNR plans to stock walleyes in another well-known lake, Mille Lacs. Yet fishery experts are quick to point out, stocking has its limitations. In Minnesota's historic walleye waters, the goal is to rely on naturally produced walleyes to keep the catching game going.
Beauty.
Interestingly, DNR officials suspect that Minnesota's current state record walleye may have a surprising family tree. On opening day, May 13, 1979, a 17-pound, 8-ounce beauty, almost 36 inches in length, was landed by Leroy Chivotti of Hermantown, Minnesota.
I always find it rather interesting that we introduced walleyes to Saginaw and the lakes up in the Saginaw Plateau, and it was the Seagull River that delivered the state record walleye, even though it was never native there after the glacier receded.
Minnesota Bound is brought to you by Kinetico, Mountain Dew, Radco Truck Accessories, Bent Creek Golf Course, and by Totem Resorts, the premier destination for world-class fishing.
Minnesota's walleye future is akin to a Minnesota weather forecast for opening day. A sunny start, with the possibility of dark clouds looming later. First, the sunny start, the good news.
You know, I think we can keep it going. I mean, we've got a really good stocking program. A lot of the lakes, you know, especially in the southern half of the state, are all stocked anyway.
As for the dark clouds looming ahead for walleyes, much is uncertain and unknown. Invasive species, climate change, declining water quality, lakeshore development. In the future, some or all may impact our walleye passion.
Ooh, biggie too.
So I think the two ones that scare me the most would be zebra mussels and spiny water flea. We're not certain what zebra mussels are doing yet, but it's hard for me to believe that if there are 2 trillion zebra mussels in Mille Lacs filtering a lot of water, that there's not going to be an impact to future fish production there.
The perch populations overall throughout the state have been declining. Maybe it's got something to do with global warming, or well, that's really bad for walleyes. I mean, that's not, you know, that's what they eat.
Also happening in Minnesota's walleye world is this bit of unexpected good news. More anglers are willingly catching and releasing walleyes, required or not. This was unheard of decades ago, when the only good walleye was in the frying pan.
Oh yeah! When we were first talking about asking anglers to put walleye back in the water, and people were like, "Are you nuts? We eat this fish. We're not going to catch it and release it."
We may not like to release perfectly good eating walleyes, but we do. Why? Very simply, when you love walleyes, you need a lover.
I think our walleye resource at this point in time is outstanding.
Does the DNR fisheries chief ever worry about the state of walleyes?
I can sleep at night. Well, I sleep reasonably well at night.
So, there you have it. Our Minnesota Walleye Love Story shows no signs of ending. Yes, it's a fishing yarn, but it's the truth. So have a good opening day, take a kid with you, and Bill and Laura will be back with you next week. Thanks for watching. And Raven, you're still the star of the show, right?
Transportation provided by Premier Transportation. Call 1-800 899-7433. To get more Minnesota Bound, including full episodes, go to mnbound.com. And to follow our latest adventures, like us on Facebook.